Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody. I am Bhakti Khanna, and I also have Govind Sridhar along with me. And today, both of us welcome you all for on this rainy Saturday, by the way, in Mumbai, and welcome you all for this webinar that we're going to talk about future of business analysis, and it's going to be in context with the emerging trends and business in business and technology. So for those who don't know me, I'm a pricing consultant with 10 plus years of experience in multiple sectors. I started my journey as a developer, but I think I had an inclination towards business analysis more, and it excited me the most. I'm currently working within my organization as a business SME for my company's largest vertical. And with IIBA, I'm associated with them as a chapter leader. So I handle the event communications for IIBA Mumbai Chapter. Govind, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure, Bhakti. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome on a Saturday morning. I'm sure it's taken some time out of your personal schedules to be here. I hope it's worth it. I'm Govind. I too am a part of IIBA Mumbai chapter, recently added to the group. I look forward to an amazing event ahead for all of you. I just wanted to confirm if everyone is able to see the screen share. There is a slide which says Future of Business Analysis. That should come up for everyone by now. If you haven't seen it, please connect with me on chat. We'll try to sort it out for you. Over to Bhakti.
Before actually I go ahead inside, there are these 3 ground rules that I would like to set. So as you guys know, this is a virtual webinar, a live session for you. So we have the chat module available. So you can put in your comments as a Q&A section as well. So it would be great whenever you have any question, if you can raise those questions through the Q&A section of the Zoom module. Also, this is going to be a reflective session, so please pay attention to what the panelists are putting forward. There may be a case where you may want to actually, or you may have a different opinion on that. So we will be reviewing them as we go ahead. And then finally, sorry, did I go ahead? Oh, I went ahead. I would want you guys to enjoy yourself during this whole session. All right. So about IIBA, I don't know how many of you attending IIBA's webinars or have not done anything prior to this. So just to introduce IIBA for everybody. So IIBA is a small acronym for International Institute of Business Analysis. It's a professional association shaping the practice of business analysis to achieve better enterprise outcomes. We have 30,000 plus global members as of today, 120 plus chapters, over 1,500 plus volunteers, and 500 partners worldwide. IIBA supports the recognition of the profession within organizations, enables networking and community engagements, provides foundational standards and resources, and offers internationally recognized certification programs for career advancements. So people who have not yet gone on the IIBA website, I would highly recommend you to go ahead and use IIBA as a knowledge hub. There are lots of information available in the knowledge hub, books available for you to read, to implement, to understand. So we've already introduced ourselves, so Govind and myself. So I'll just skip the slide. But since we all know Mumbai is known as the financial capital of India, and here IIBA Mumbai chapter, the one which I represent, we are focusing more on the future of business analysis, and we are bringing in experts not just from financial and fintech domains, but other domains as well. wherein we as IIBA Mumbai chapter would like to focus on professional development, knowledge sharing, community building, and industry collaboration. Our aim is to elevate the standards of business analysis through the community of practice, and our chapter provides localized support in and around Maharashtra. So join our chapter. Uh, in line with this, we're going to be now talking about the future of business analysis in context of emerging trends in business and technology. My 2 cents on it: the field of business analysis is continuously evolving in response to the emerging trends and in business and technology. As we look to the future, several key trends are likely to shape the role of business analysis and its significance within organizations. So before I dive, or rather the expert panels start discussing, I would like to first introduce the moderator for today. That is Dr. Pradeep Pense, known as I would say currently the in-charge director, university program, and CDO of We Schools, Winninker Schools. He has a rich 30 plus years of experience. He has about 15 plus years as a virtual CIO, IT consultant, and the founder of a software and service firm. Also, he's an avid trainer. So I have got that experience. So guys, yes, you should get in touch with him. He's actively involved in various professional bodies for over 2 decades. By the way, he's the first Indian to write a book on business analysis, which was published in, I believe, in the year 2016 by him. So I'll now hand over this, podium to you, Pradeep sir, to take it ahead and have an engaging conversation.
Right. Thanks, Bhakti and Govind, I think, and Swami sir, of course. I think the important point to mention is that I also founded the Bombay chapter of IIBA.
Oh, yes. My bad.
I'm still around for a long time now. I think you need one anchor, and I think I've been that, but maybe a couple of years I will move out of this. So, because I think the movement has gathered steam. We have some really capable and well-established people now in our IIBA chapter committees, and we would love to see more joining so that the chapter not only thrives but grows as we go ahead. So I'll feel happy that I've stepped away when the chapter has really taken off. But I think as a movement, it's been very, an happy experience for me right from 2006 onwards when I started my course on business analysis till today. And I think we've seen the careers of people growing, my own students, for example, at Wellinger. And what I find interesting is, which is really setting the context here, is we are actually using the word business analysis as a very umbrella word for a role which is very undefined, and it is actually defined by each organization differently, right from gathering requirements to managing products to doing pre-sales also. I think everybody is termed as a business analyst, and depending on which organization you're in. So I would actually therefore urge all of you who have joined to look at this as business analysis and don't attach it to a particular role. Think of that as generic knowledge, which you may want to use in whatever role that you may play. Many a time I tell my students who don't join IT industry, but they are, let's say, managers in finance or whatever it is, or in HR, we say today you're managing business processes or products. So you are, in a sense, going to continuously improve your products and processes, which means you are doing business analysis in any case, right? So you may not be in the IT industry, but you are still doing business analysis. So in that sense, I think take it in a general level. And for that, we have an excellent panel, actually, which brings 3 different perspectives. So one, let me introduce Prasanna Lohar, and I'm just doing a very informal introduction, not reading out anything, but I will also ask them to say a few words about themselves. who earlier was heading the innovation of a large bank, and now he's chief executive officer at Blockstack. So he is extremely knowledgeable on things like blockchain and all the new age technologies. But equally, I think he's driven a lot of innovation in banking and finance, and you'll hear more about him as he speaks. We have Dr. Nitin Patwardhan, who's, of course, like many of you here, uh, is from the IT industry, but he's also somebody who is very well known in the project management circles, having been very active in organizations like PMI and things like that. But he was at some point heading the customer engagement for SLA, and to them, it is basically all the aircraft and IITA and all of those who are their customers and stakeholders in a sense. And today he drives business, but he's also head of a COE at SLA. Siddesh Zogaikar brings a very different background, which is in terms of product and marketing and digital marketing and all of that. And he was part of Byju's and driving a lot of engagement initiatives with various stakeholders, including the new media, which is there, the OTT platforms and all that, because Byju's has used everything, I think, in the area of marketing. And from a marketing person, he's now a CEO of a product company called Programming Hub, which essentially is a product which allows people to learn various programming languages on the go, on the net, on the mobile. So we'll hear from him a very different perspective from a product perspective. And I see here many people who have joined are also product people. They might enjoy what they hear. So with that little background and the context that I gave, let me plunge into the discussion as such. And I'm going to first request each panelist to quickly tell us where they come from. Not in great detail, but at least to set the context in terms of the kind of industries they represent and the kind of challenges that they see in these industries, so that it will help us to take the discussion further. So let me begin with Prasanna, since I introduced him first. Prasanna, you want to say something about banking and your experiences about?
Yeah, I think thank you so much, Dr. Pence, and very good morning, all of you all. And thanks for this opportunity to express all our experiences to all of our delegates and audiences. I think certainly it will be very helpful, and through this exercise, I will also learn. So I think great opportunity. What I have seen banking as a customer back in 2000 when I opened my first account. That's how I seen the banking, where it is to take 30-35 days to open a bank account. Since then, we have seen how banking have changed because of many regulations, technology adoptions, from internet to smartphones back to there are a lot of new things come up. So in my view, I have seen banking sitting outside of the bank while serving almost all banks in South Asia, including SBI or IDBI, almost all banks while creating their technology stack. And I joined bank in 2014 for 8-9 years, where I done a lot of banking within a bank. So coming from that exercise, how banks have changed typically in the last 20-25 years. So look forward to discuss that experience and what is going to change more as far as the business analysis is concerned. So thank you so much for the invitation. Yeah.
Thank you, Prasanna. So Nitin.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks to Pence sir and IIBA for giving this opportunity to really participate. And basically, this is a great event to share and learn from each other. My experience basically is largely in insurance domain as well as in airline, product area. And as Dr. Pence has aptly said, in my view, again, business analysis is a skill. It's not just a role, it's a skill. Because I remember when, in my initial part of my career, I did a business analysis or analyst as a role in product company. And that sort of a skill, I can correlate that I'm literally using it at various level, be it even sometimes we do mergers and acquisitions and I participate in due diligence of those activities. We use those sort of skills. So my request to everybody is that let's look at this more as a skill also. Whatever role you might be doing it at a tactical level, at a mid-management level or a strategic level, I can tell you based on my experience, it'll come handy, those sort of a skills, those sort of a viewpoints, which is handy. And that's why, like project management, I always call this business analysis is like a scientific art. There is a bit of a science behind that. There is a bit of a process. There is a technique, but it's an art. It depends on individual. It depends upon everybody, how you can look forward in future and then think of, probably not today, tomorrow, but about how things will happen in future. And that's where the disruption is going to come. So I think let's share those sort of views and, from a skills perspective, and more to come, when, we'll get an opportunity to answer some of your questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Siddesh, over to you.
Yes, I think I completely agree with Patwardhan sir. I think that business analysis is an art, and that cannot be understated from the industry that I come in. Largely the B2C sector. I worked in Byju's, and before that worked with Shadi.com, Rediff.com. So I understand. I come from that background. And business analysis in the B2C segment, especially the B2C technology education segment, and has been quite a roller coaster ride in the last 36 months. First we had COVID, then we had a situation where every parent in the country wanted their child to go out and attend offline classes the way they did in the pre-COVID days. And now we have Gen AI, which is disrupting the education space in a big way. So yeah, I think, in this context, the role of organizations like IIBA, communities like IIBA, I would say, is very critical. It's important to set context, to have a think tank, to have a support, and have a community support or a support of other functions, other sources of excellence to navigate transition. I would say, we have heard of agile in the context of product development. I think, agile needs to be applied in the context of business analysis as we go ahead. So yeah, very excited. And again, thanks to the IIBA chapter, Dr. Pense, and everyone here for giving this opportunity, and let's have a wonderful discussion.
Sure, thanks. So thanks for all the opening remarks. And my very first question to the panel is basically to highlight some of the dimensions of business, and to some extent you have touched upon, but try and elaborate a little bit, coming from whatever backgrounds you do, and maybe even broader in terms of other industries. What is it that you see as business challenges? And the reason I'm asking this is very simple, because I believe that business analysis, and I think I heard all of you say almost the same thing, begins at one end of the spectrum, which is trying to gather requirements at the lowest level. At the other level, he's almost like a business consultant. So that's the breadth of it. So we are assuming that people who are attending here are from a full range of all these, anything in between. And there is a gradual progression that once your own maturity as a business analyst takes you further in terms of higher roles and makes you a consultant, or even for that matter, going beyond that as a head of a business. Like Nitin himself is heading a business now. He was a business analyst at some stage. So if you were to do that transformation, I think that's really the future of business analysis in a sense, and for each one of us. So given that context, if you want to throw light at the other extreme, because we know this side of it, grappling with day-to-day requirements, etc. But how does business look like? Because many of us may not have even thought about it. So if you want to throw some light about global business and what's happening, I think we can start with the other order now. Siddesh first.
Yes, definitely. So, sir, currently, at least in the product and technology space, last 12 months have been quite something. In the startup world, we all know we saw funding winter sort of emerge, and that has led to significant changes in prioritization, significant changes in the way businesses are approaching their their path to profitability. We have seen even the recently public companies like Paytm and Zomato sort of pivot towards delivering profitability in a much faster pace. In that light, the way in which business analysis should happen has to have the external lens that it and that's what is happening as well. We are looking at, at one point of time, business analysts used to think of a 6 to 12 month time frame. There is a situation where, especially since for the past 2 quarters, where business analysts are literally looking at a 3 to 6 months, even 0 to 3 month time frame, and sort of improvising strategies and on the go, at least in the product companies. But that is happening because of the external environment. As we look at the future, I think with Gen AI and all of that, I think business analysts have a wonderful tool to really stay in pace with the kind of expectation that is now getting set across product companies. How do we scale? How do we leverage Gen AI? How do we leverage other tools that are really bringing a lot of productivity into play, right? And I think that's where this is moving. I think business analysis will have to be agile. Business analysis will have to be faster. I think, for at least in the product.
To that. My question is more focused on understanding business dimensions first and what's changing in business, and just to create awareness. So you want to say something more, or I can switch to?
That's it. I think the pace, I think, has certainly quickened up, and there is a significant focus on profitability, and path to profitability has really been the anchor across,
right,
certainly the B2C product space that I come from.
Right. So I think one is you talk about products, but actually you mean perhaps platforms, because the large scale platform that you have also built and you've been part of it. One of the challenges that you find is constantly watching over your shoulder to see who's competing with you, because I think as platforms grow, the number of industries in which you compete is so significantly different. So one of the things that I find always so difficult to grasp is you think of a company like Google or anybody, the number of industry segments in which they are competing parallelly is amazing. And
Yes.
I really wonder how they do it. And as an analyst, if I talk about enterprise analysis, that's what one of the domains in IIBA we talk about. Enterprise analysis in this case is really competition in not one, but 100 different domains. Because you may be competing with a payment company, a bank on one side, and then you're competing with a commerce company and an ad agency in the other side. So that's something which is exciting. You want to say something about that because you have run a product company. So, Siddesh.
Definitely. So I think that is exactly what is happening. As we look at, for example, a ChatGPT creating perhaps in future a challenge to the search ecosystem. Being for example has been at the forefront of this change. Integrating AI into them. I think Google has exactly to just elaborate on the example that you said. Google will have to put a plan to monetize other sources of revenue. For example, they have done some incredibly amazing changes in the Google Play Store in the last 3 months. They have introduced a slew of features on the Google Play Store, which is enabling the entire developer community to monetize their apps in ways they have never done before. So I think the thinking behind it is certainly happening from someone who is doing deep business analysis and on multiple fronts. They have done some amazing stuff with UPI, for example, in the Indian context, with Google Pay and stuff. So as the world changes, and if search as an ecosystem starts delivering a lower revenue, Google, it looks like, is preparing itself to sort of reduce their dependence on search and grow all these other revenue streams into something really big. Already some of them are big, but they're into something bigger, I would say. So yeah, that is what is happening.
Right. Thanks. Nitin, you want to add to that? And you can bring in also the dimension that I think some of the companies you serve are actually brick and mortar companies, which are also getting transformed. So they are not platform first kind of companies. So.
Yep. So let me tell you some examples of what is happening in airline industry, because that's what is the last 12 or 13 years I'm associated with. But you can imagine the that the change the industry has gone through. Just imagine 12 years back, I don't know, many of us may not have seen, but it used to be the paper, like a ticket written on a piece of paper, and used to get 2-3 slips of one-way travel. From that to all the digitization of the ticket, to an extent that now there is a thought process that people can go around without any identification also. In fact, there are in some airports where you can just walk across and they will do eye scanning, and the entire information will be available, and so that it will become a completely a paperless industry in very soon. It's already happening, and it'll keep on happening. The technology has really made a big impact, and especially in some sectors, and like airline sectors, especially on the passenger side. On the manufacturing and other side, there was a technology. For example, you fly an aircraft, it used to be based on all the autopilot and all sort of a sophisticated software of GPS tracking and so on and so forth. But on a consumer side, they were slightly lacking on a technology curve, and the other industries have pushed this industry to a limit. And you can just imagine, when you used to travel earlier, you used to think of, okay, I need to travel from one destination to another destination. You used to book a ticket well in advance, probably a non-refundable ticket, and so on and so forth. And now, on one few clicks on your mobile, you can book a ticket. Not only you can book a ticket, you can book the taxis, you can book the hotels, you can book all ancillary services, you can book a particular seat. You want to have a meal on the flight, you can book everything. It has completely changed the way currently the airline and travel industry does the business. And this is really getting pushed forward and forward and forward, and that there is no limit to that. Now, if you have to imagine that these are the external forces, and one of the external force we need to remember is that the market segment and user patterns. These people, they see other industry. For example, I can do all sort of a shopping on Amazon, so why I can't do similar shopping of my all travel needs on an e-commerce platform? So the moment this sort of thought comes in, unless airlines are geared up for that, if you are not technologically advanced, you will be really missing this sort of a market segment, which is the next generation operating through the gadgets and mobile devices. So you have to do that sort of a continuous catch up, and that's where the innovation happens. Then that's where all these sort of legacy products are undergoing tremendous change, and we see a huge surge in travel industry. As we all know, COVID had maximum impact on travel industry. Virtually all the airlines aircrafts were grounded, other than probably the cargo planes shipping the vaccination or essential goods from one country to another country, and so on and so forth. Virtually the world has come to a standstill. That was unbelievable, but fact of life. Once that has happened, and now the industry is emerging, there's a huge competition among themselves, and that's where you see a lot of mergers, acquisition, consolidation, new trends of doing the business. And that is really giving rise to innovation on the products and services which support this sort of a business requirement. And this a technology is really helping airline industries to really remain ahead of curve. Now you go to any of the aggregator and you try to book a ticket. There is another concept which is coming in, that you block a ticket for a particular price. If the price reduces, you get a reduced price, but the price increases. That's a classical example of, the pricing products which are coming into market, where you can block a ticket for a particular price. If the market price drops, still, you pay the less. If market price increases, that's what is an assured price. So I see huge change in the industry, and that's where the business analysis comes into play, because it's a skill where you need to really anticipate how the technology will help this sort of a businesses to change their model, as well as, most important in my opinion, is that how the user pattern, user behavior change, which will force all these companies to have a different products and services, which on the backside will give rise to different products and services.
Right. Thanks.
One
Prasanna?
question
yeah,
that's
yeah,
coming pertaining to this,
Mhm.
Dr. Nitin, and it's coming from the audience. So there are a couple of really good questions. So thanks people for asking your questions here. One question that's related is, with the world that is changing so fast and rapidly, what do you think are the must skills for any business analysis aspirant to survive in this changing market dynamics? Could we take that up?
So can we park it, because I think we'll come to skills a little later. Yeah, but I think that's a very relevant question. One is, in fact, that's there in my mind also as I hear them speak. What's the role of a BA in all this strategic planning? Because there's also a question around that which I just saw. Because
Yeah.
all that they are saying is the competitive position of the company that they're representing. And where does the BA come in all of this? Or is he just at the receiving end of developing a technology solution? That's the consulting end of the spectrum, which I spoke of. So I think he should be driving it. But we'll ask that question a bit later. So for now, I think let me ask Prasanna ji, can you tell us about the banking industry and how it's changing? I just received a message from ICICI Bank saying that you have been selected to be one of the first to experience the digital currency. Now, I don't know whether I should take it up or not, and whether I was really selected or I'm being forced to do something. So over to you, sir. You are mute, sir.
Yeah, okay. So thank you. I think Siddesh ji and Nitin ji has set the tone, considering what has really happened in a banking scenario. You must be remembering, sir, I think the banking was only in a brick and mortar earlier, where roles like business analysis never existed 25 years. We never thought of we had to really think in a different direction, use technology, and the technology was with the paper, right? So open account with paper and look at whether the KYC documents, whatever it was available, those were the government IDs and documents. I think while there are many aspects in a banking as far as a business analyst is concerned, we'll touch upon customer journey. Right. So, and typically, the way the global study says, the intention or inclination of every bank globally is around customer expectation, a customer experience, less of operations within a bank, as well as later, let us look at the security angle around that, and then sustainability or ESG angle. So that's the 5 pillars every bank is looking forward in a nutshell. And if you go back in early to 1995, where we have to wait for 25 minutes taking out the cash, right? That was the queue used to happen in large branches. And today, I think nobody want to visit bank branches. That is mean that particular line of request has almost vanished in the bank branch. Even customer account opening until 2014, where Aadhaar was always there in which has started in 2010, right? But actual adoption has started post Jandan Yojana or inclination of NPCI towards opening bank account for every fellow citizen. So what is needed? A citizen ID or a national ID, where we could see that Aadhaar being registered for every citizen out here, which has given a digital push to open a bank account with eKYC kind of a product. So that is why new set of regulations or controls came in. So automatically last from 2000 till 2014-15, where we could see many more norms came by RBI. First of all, KYC is required, right? That is came in 2004. Or there were some amalgamation for EFT or electronic fund transfer, which has started once internet came into picture, or people started buying buying PCs in the branches. I think the initial 7-8 years, we have seen that more of IT until internet has become more prominent with the smartphones. Right. Otherwise, people used to look around 1 GB or 500 MB packs. Today, it is by the end of this session, we will exhaust many more GBs. Right. So I think if you look at overall impact on banking or any other industry and the way new products has arisen, it is all because of connectivity. 1G followed by 2G or 3G, and all of a sudden we landed from 2G, 3G, and immediately 4G. Now we are talking about 5G. And imagine how your product is going to design define in a 2030 with 6G will be around, right? So more or less customer expectation keeps changing with new communication or connectivities, and they come with lot of experience in some other industry and ask banking industry, please change your banking the way it is happening in real industry, I would say retail industry or gaming industry. They want same kind of experience onto the mobile banking apps. They don't want to wait for those paper process to open a bank account. It should be just like to provide personal information followed by some IDs and some verification. They want loan to be ready all of a sudden. I think the customer expectations with this change in communication, 1G, 2G, 3G has come up with a different segments, so-called Web 1.0, which was only static web pages on browsers. Web 2.0, where a lot of things started coming in, and role of product managers and business analysts have started picking up. How to create new products online, how to create new products with the mobile phones. Until that time, it was always a, I think that department was not existing in banks. So I think last 5-6 years, you could
if
see.
you want to talk about the future of banking, I think because that will be of interest, so that
Yeah.
that also sort of trigger a lot of thought in the BA community.
Yeah,
here.
so I think the way we have seen, COVID has hit and given a lot of a push for digital transformation. So all the organizations who were aspiring to go in orbit 3, all of a sudden they have reached to the orbit 6. And the expectation here onwards for customers are altogether different, right? So again, customer expectation, how can we fulfill the same customer who don't want to come to bank branch, and how do you reach out? So I think some of those communication methods, like upgrades in the contact centers, upgrades in your mobile phone, or those experiences, reaching out to the customer wherever he is on social media or some other site. How do you get that data and create a 24/7 or a 360-degree of a customer persona, which is ready, and give back that customer before he comes to the banking? That is how you're going to be the future of banking. In the sense, rise of new channels called marketplace banking, where you don't have to come to mobile banking or internet banking, but your product is already available in marketplace. What you have to go there, you just have to give a consent. Okay, based upon my data, I am giving consent. Let that 10 lakh rupees come to my account in the next moment. So that's how your data is already there. You just have to give a consent. So your push from your traditional banking, today we are a digital banking backed by API banking, cloud, or could be little bit of AI. I'm saying little bit of AI, but tomorrow's banking, which is little bit of more intelligent. He understands the customer more. Your data is already there. Moreover, your data is more secure because of a blockchain kind of a technologies. So amalgamation of a AI, blockchain, data, cloud, and invisible interfaces, so-called conversational at your devices, conversation at your car, conversation at your mobile phones, which is going to be more or less, instead of click, it is going to be more of a voice interfaces, right? So that's the intelligent banking, which I will say is coming up, where most of the banks are now looking at how they will be part of that. So you imagine that RBI vision, documents, and everything is aligned, how AI or DLT should be part of all of these things. But while we talk about these things, once again, the KYC industry, which has gone from paper to eKYC to CKYC to video KYC during COVID, what next for that KYC, right? The next is decentralized KYC. In the sense, you open a bank account with one bank, and so far your product manager, business analyst was really dealing with only with that product, where he has to take care of how the customer journey is going to happen on that product. But tomorrow this KYC is going to be decentralized KYC. What does it mean? KYC done with the one bank can be reutilized by some other bank. So again, your role changes to understand how it is going to be, how do we incentivize other bank who is utilizing your KYC document, right? It takes around 5,000 to 10,000 rupees to open a bank account on an average. And you never know, Mr. Prasanna is going to be really your bank customer, or he will switch to another bank. Imagine he has at least 3 to 4 bank accounts today, the way everybody has, and it is a push, or there is a load of that much 5,000 to 10,000 rupees for every customer. With the decentralized KYC backed by existing railroads like Aadhaar, eKYC, video KYC, your cost will immediately reduce down, and moreover, the role of an analyst also change out there. Now, while I talk about this decentralized KYC, there is a Web3 world which is coming up and giving a knock. There, your KYC has to be there as soon as you are born. It is only you have to give a consent, right? So-called self-sovereign KYC, right? So KYC is already there, and that KYC is dynamic based upon your age, based upon your parameter, based upon what you do. That KYC keeps on changing. And as a customer, you will just say only 2 parameters or 14 parameters I can give as an authority to that bank or regulated entity to go ahead and use it as long as I have a bank account there. Today, I have opened a bank account back in with ICS, still my data lies there, right? And I don't know what is happening with that data. So I think in a nutshell, Pension sir, the way I look at it, the data which banks are utilizing today, it will not be so easy to utilize it tomorrow based upon various guidelines are coming. Customer expectation today we have today, customer expectation will be 24/7, will be always around. They will not ask bank to bank, open a bank account, but there are non-banking entities who will take the APS from the bank and say that your bank is account is ready in a metaverse. You will have to go and give a consent and be part of that public metaverse. The way some banks outside of India already started doing that. So I think the way we are spending today on shopping malls or doing transaction on UPI, that will also go on to some other interfaces from social media to e-commerce side to furthermore to gaming and metaverse industry. So I think in a nutshell, technology will give a lot of boost to change various products and the customer expectation. But while doing this, some point in time will come and say, what is that we are giving back to the society for every account open? So that's another business models out of India. People treat it as a token. And against that token, they incentivize customers against how much they transaction do, right? So some banks have started doing that. And certainly one regulator in India is supporting that, some experiments in a gift city. So I think that will also come eventually in next 5-6 years. You will be incentivized for your KYC you have done with the bank. So imagine how much pressure or how much reskilling work a business analyst has to do in an ever-changing technology era. Yeah.
Right.
Prasanna sir, one question that's related, right? How business analysis will help integrating omni-channel in a specific industry? It's very thematic to what you just said. What is it that business analysis has a role to play in this regard?
No, business analyst, see, the way it was a unilateral experience where I used to go to the bank branch. Now, instead of going bank branch, I sit here and do the banking with online and mobile experience. Now, moreover, what is happening, instead of I sit here, bank wants to come back to you, say, this is for you. Based upon your last 5 transactions, this is product available, this loan is already available. Based upon your this thing, you should open a FD and you just have to give a consent, yes. This can happen only as a bank. I am understanding your journey from branch to mobile to internet to any other non-banking channel where I need to understand how my customer is moving. That can be done only if you have a right omni-channel architecture behind, wherein a customer journey which has started at one channel should be utilized at another channel. Example, customer come in a Vijay Sales and buying some kind of a laptop, but he says, I don't want. And customer goes on to the Flipkart and all of a sudden pop-up comes, hey, you were at Vijay Sales, we are here to help you. Or you enter in a bank branch and says that you have visited some property out there, are you looking for a loan? So every channel has to talk to each other. So it is called as the actual omni-channel banking or omni-channel experience. So business analyst has to understand how omni-channel works, how technical architecture, not get into actual technicalities, but how APIs works, how API will create new business models. So it's very, very useful for them the way I did traditional banking with all these channels. Now my more channels are marketplace or so-called Zerodhas or so-called some fintechs or so-called some apps where I have to pump in my APIs, and these APIs will help to open, serve, and engage customers. So that can happen only if you have a right omni-channel architecture in the backend. Now this omni-channel will become a consortium kind of omni-channel. That is what I was talking with the help of a blockchain, how it will become. So that you are banking with one bank, other bank can understand what they are doing. That's what interoperable bank account is doing.
Prasanna,
So
I think we'll stop here for the moment and come back. But I think you have raised a point at the end, which I want to actually take it to the other two also panelists, which is about when you talk of platform play or building a platform across stakeholders, like Prasanna mentioned about multiple banks collaborating, etc. And Nitin has done it, Siddesh has done it. So you want to share some experiences, and then in that context, how do you see the role of a BA in a consulting role, trying to get people together to collaborate on such projects? And there's one other request, while we are talking, there are a lot of questions there. So any of you who is free and you want to respond to those questions, please respond to them immediately. you can type it in. So yeah, thanks. So you can, Nitin, you can start maybe and talk about your ITA experience and.
Yeah. So when you talk about, we typically call it as an industry initiative. What Prasanna was mentioning about, probably it might start it on a small scale for a particular bank or a set of series of bank, but then it can expand into an overall, overall banking industry. Similar thing happens in other, industries also. For example, in airline industry, let's take an example and how this has evolved slightly. I'll go back to a bit of a 10 years back. Every airline, they do business with each other. We call it as a code share business. Like, for example, you buy a ticket on one airline, but actually you fly on somebody else's aircraft. You may not realize it, but if you are very careful about that, you fly on somebody else's aircraft. What that means is that you purchase a ticket for one airline, you pay that airline money. Internally, they transfer money from one airline to another airline for the usage of their services or products, right? And this you can expand it to any number of services, what you use, ground handling services, lounge services, and so on and so forth. So what happens is that, let's say two airlines, they come together, they decide how to exchange money among ourselves. They decide that sort of a protocol, they decide what sort of an interface we will have it, what sort of a bank transfer they will have it, and they go on. Now you just imagine, you scale it up, this particular initiative across these sort of alliances and across the airline industry. There is a huge monetary transaction which happens across the industry, and it goes into, you'll be surprised to know, it goes into billions of dollars per month. Okay, this sort of a money transaction which happens across. Now, over a period, what has happened was this was being done individually, and that's where the role of IATA comes into play. IATA, if you are aware or not aware, IATA is basically a body of the airline which sets the standards, be it safety standards, security standards, financial standards. So they set that sort of a standards, as well as they provide that sort of a service. So our company, was working, actually I was working with IATA, and this understanding of this sort of a need was happening for years. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens. So it becomes a bit of a business bottleneck. Business bottleneck leads to some sort of a point solution. The point solution then is liked by the other competitors, and that's where it evolves. It doesn't happen. This sort of a disruption at that time happened over a period. As a business analyst, and that's where I always slightly give a bit of a philosophical answer to the question, because even we might be at a junior level. Let's say I'm working on a particular module as a business analyst. You need to understand the big picture. And a simple anecdote I give it is that there are two people who are working on creating or building, institutions, a building. One person answers the question, oh, I'm laying this sort of a bricks. The other person say that, oh, I'm laying this sort of a foundation of a building which is going to be used for an educational institute. So you might be doing a junior most job in the complex, that sort of a business disruption. You need to think of the big picture and understand even that small piece of work, how that is going to make a difference. Because if that foundational stone is not been properly laid, the entire building will collapse, right? So do not ever think that you might be at a junior most position and you are doing that sort of a small job. And that's where this sort of a business disruption type of a scenario comes into play, where everybody plays that sort of a role, from a junior most person to the strategist role, and everybody has to work and then think from that perspective that ultimately what we are going to achieve it in the end game. And that's where you then break it down into some specific iterative, that sort of a development product scenarios. But it's a complex thing. And now that I correlate 12 years back, what we did it in 3-4 years, now it is happening in a year's time because of the technology, because of the faster development. And I'll give you one example of post-COVID, how this, we call it as a concept of a one order scenario, where it's like an e-commerce for the travel industry. And that's where, if you see, there is a huge change in the websites of airline, where you can do all sort of like a shopping online and buy all the services related to your travel in one click. And behind that, there are lots of engines, lot of aggregators, the tool they work, and they fetch all set of data in real time and then provide that sort of a service. So the big change what has happened because of the technological advance, this sort of a market disruptive initiative, earlier used to go for 3-4 years or so. Now it is getting into 1 year, a quick wins and so on and so forth. But you as a business analyst, you need to really think of the big picture, even though you might be doing the junior most job in that business distribution.
Right. In fact, one of the things I've been telling my students is there's a emerging role which is coming up, which is partnerships and alliances. And, as an analyst, I have to also look at what other companies should I partner with to add value to my customers. So if that sort of a thought process is there, then the solution becomes natural to me. So like you said, I may be still laying my bricks, but I have an eye on what else I can do in the future. So at least I can trigger a thought. And to that, I think, let me ask Siddesh, because I think he is best qualified to talk about the B2C space, and because that's where I think these sort of partnerships do happen.
Definitely. So in fact, sir, I'll tell you, I'll take the example of last 6 months. There is a huge transition that has happened in the way B2C companies advertise. The advertising mix has gone for a complete change. And it all started with one auction that BCCI held for the IPL. Yeah, a lot of B2C companies were seeing that auction with great interest. And as was expected, digital was quite coveted, digital rights. And for the first time, IPL sort of had a split, wherein TV was taken by the Star Group, TV rights, and digital rights were taken by Jio Cinema. In the context, Reliance rather, and the vehicle was Jio Cinema. And that itself created a large, IPL itself is a large marketing spend or a planning activity from a business analysis perspective, at least in the B2C space. A lot of companies look at it. But now with the rights getting split, how will the audiences split? Where should a particular company concentrate on? So for example, how should a consumer-based company like a Swiggy plan its marketing mix, right? And that in the context of audiences getting divided, plus the rates. Think about what happened. The earlier the kind of rates that were there, compared to that, the rates are now going to be similar for both TV and digital, but the audiences might be split into two. So then the kind of reach, the CPRPs, the cost per reach point that I'm going to be getting is going to be straight away reducing by 50%. So then what is the kind of marketing mix change that we'll have to do was a big exercise in itself for a lot of B2C consumer-based companies. And it looks like this pace of change is going to continue in the next few years. After I'm talking to a lot of people, and we are seeing cord cutting happening at a pace faster than ever before. A lot of us have shifted to an OTT dominant consumption compared to a TV dominant consumption, right? And that has an impact in the way in which you plan your marketing mix. Now, in all of this context, where is digital? So the point is, as Nitin sir was talking about, the pace of change is happening in the context of aviation from 3 to 4 years to a year. Something similar is happening in the world of marketing, in the world of B2C as well. Yeah, and just connecting the point to Prasanna sir's omni-channel conversation. The omni-channel has to be thought of in an OTT, TV as well as digital space. And then within digital also, you are talking about some amazing alternatives, both for performance marketing as well as for awareness. I think, the kind of ad innovations that are happening with respect to OTT as well as on YouTube for awareness and branding is also quite significant. So I think this is happening as we speak. I think the only way to go about this is to get ourselves acquainted with more tools. For example, in the context of marketing or in the context of B2C apps business, there are tools like a sensor tower, which have huge amount of analysis data. Tools like ComScore in the context of media measurement, right? We have to start looking at them, and then somehow process that huge amount of data that we have access to, and put that data into the second piece, which is the data visualization piece. You have to make that data in such a way that you are able to visualize and understand insights. At the end of the day, time is still limited. And suddenly you have a wealth of data that keeps throwing numbers at you. But A, create those relevant data sources. B, visualize that data in a way that is useful to your function. And I mean, this is what is happening in marketing day in and day out. Every day, what is the kind of CPIs that you are getting in digital? What is the kind of CPIs that you are getting in an OTT? And how will that impact your marketing mix on a monthly basis? Right. And the third piece being, where is all this going to head towards? So for example, if your brand is planning to advertise in IPL in 2024, what is the media measurement mix? What is the kind of budgets that you are going to plan out? That somewhere at the back of the mind, you have to start thinking along these lines. But yeah, in this, I think the intermediate step of data visualization is something that I think business analysis, anyone who is doing business analysis should upskill themselves for, whether it is a Power BI or a Tableau or whatever tool that works
So
for
what
you.
is the linkage, and that's open to all three of you, where we are building products, and from what Siddesh said and all of you said, there is obviously a lot of data which could help you in the future planning. The question is, when I'm making the product, how do I imagine that this sort of a data could be useful at some stage? And therefore, I need to design the product in a way that it captures that data. All right. So any thoughts around that from a business analysis point of view? How do I go about visualizing the need for such data in the future? Because I'm not actually the market research guy, or I'm not the marketing guy, but I have to think as to what will he need in the future. So what would you say about that?
Just to ask a bit of a question, data capture through the product or for
Through the
designing
product,
the product?
yeah, through the product.
Through the
So
product.
so for example, now you are connecting this code share. Now, what is the kind of value that you can generate to individual airlines and to the customer based on the data that you collect? So this is something where you have organically collected the data. But on the other hand, I'm saying that can you also imagine the data that you may benefit by collecting today for the future?
Yeah.
Which is not naturally part of the transaction. So
yeah. So let me give a bit of a answer from the practicality perspective. See, many times these sort of a symptoms or need exists in the market. It doesn't come all of a sudden that, okay, nobody has thought of this data will be useful and you capture that data and now there is a need has been created. Always these sort of needs and wants are existing in the market. Probably you may not have the full sight of that, and that's where I think that lack of visibility can cause that sort of issue. One of the thing I learned over a period based on my experience is that many times you may not know the end game fully, exactly what is needed or what can be needed. And that's where the whole agile development and iterative development comes into play, where when you capture that sort of a requirement, you might know something is really needed, where there will be that sort of a data will be used for a certain business purposes or some business benefits. You start with that, but you continuously keep an open eye on what is happening in the marketplace, what possible scenarios can emerge as you start. And many times there is a secondary need comes into play, that you provide certain data, certain information to your user set. They say, oh, can we also have this information, because then we can use, or you can solve this sort of a business problem going forward. So there is, sometimes I feel there is a continuous evolution of these sort of needs and wants. And sometimes there are needs and wants exist in the marketplace, which you may not be having it. Now, the question is that as an individual, how to tap that sort of an information on investment. Generally, in most of the companies, when you start working on product, it's an investment. It's purely a business decision to do an investment to get a return on an investment. So there is an investment thesis, there is a business case for that. And many times you will find it out, those sort of pointers in your business case, that why you are developing, why you are investing money in developing that product. you need to slightly dive deeper into those sort of needs and wants and what is the business justification for those cases to start with. And as a junior person, my view is that you have to continuously keep a track of what is happening in the market, and especially understanding the end users' needs and wants. And that's where the continuous and iterative development can take place. And you have to be really, really agile and nimble in this one. Never ever I have seen it that you document a requirement, you sign off that sort of requirement, and that's the end product's requirement. Never it happens. In fact, by the time you develop the product, that requirement would have gone into a different size and shape. So a continuous adoption, continuous improvement is the key for such type of scenario.
Okay. Anyone else wants to address that? So if not, then we'll shift to the skill sets issue. And it's been the real value for all the participants here. So what do you think? And each one of you can probably highlight a couple of skills in a very precise manner, which you think are relevant, and you as in your current role, whatever it is, expect out of a business analyst. Prasanna, you want to start? So
yeah, I think skill set is I think we are at such a junction. What skill set we had as any product guy or any developer are a little bit irrelevant today. In the sense, we have seen that generation where I must have bought at least 10 books for Java to learn Java, because it was this is how your traditional Fox Pro kind or desktop kind of ecosystems are slowly moving on to the web applications. So all of a sudden, every industry started learning those web applications, how to code into Java or Active Server, ASP, Microsoft technology, so on. So today, I think technology has reached to different level. Your omni-channel thing, your architectures are on the fly, platforms are available, right? So, and these new age technologies are now giving such a kind of a momentum every month, I would say. It's not like you have learned something on AI today and it is going to be so relevant in the next 30 days. And since you have seen generative AI came in back in last year, the announcements, although there was a lot of work was happening since last 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden given a challenge, rather opportunity for these BS to work on in a different way, right? Apart from having that generic, say example, somebody has to create business specifications or some kind of a presentations or some kind of a documents or some kind of a learnings across the world that is available immediately in front of you, provided how you are prompting to to those engines, so-called prompt engineering, right? So I think the way we are more good at the prompt engineering, that will generate your image, text, Word document, presentations, and so on. So unless you learn those technologies, you cannot do that. While you say, I will not learn, I am happy with that. So another junior guy may learn and become somebody where you have to report him. So that's how is the power of a reskilling today. So today it's, although the way we have seen, we learned your engineering, you have done the job, now you are got retired. That was the traditional era. Today you have to unlearn everyday basis. Rather every day, regular basis, you need to understand what's really happening. In a banking context, yeah.
Sorry, I had an add-on question to this based on what you said. So the plethora of tools keep coming out.
Yeah.
As a BA, I don't have the time to look around every new tool that comes. So is there a rational way of handling the changes that come and institutionalizing it quickly? So maybe Nitin can also answer that a little, because I think as a COE head and things like that, how do you ensure that technology percolates quickly, every new change that comes and which is worthwhile pursuing? So do you do experimentations? Do you do proof of concepts? Do you train up people quickly? How do you do that? So,
yeah, generally, what we do is that, see, even though the new technologies emerge, not necessarily continuously you have to adopt to the new technology. The reason being, every new technology has got its own nuances. There are pros and cons are there. So you can't keep on changing your tools, every now and then. So generally what we do is that we have got certain tools and processes which we believe are at that sort of a technology curve, which will last for a particular period. many times these sort of a techniques which are like a tool independent, there might be a change in tool. Let's take a simple example of depicting your your user requirement. It could be user stories. Now the mechanism can change. It could be in Jira, it could be in the rational. There could be a different ways of doing, but depicting your user stories is a concept which remains constant forever. So generally what we do is that those sort of tools, even though some of the candidates or some of the new entrants may not be aware of that, we conduct those sort of a training. For us, what is important is that whether that person possesses analytical skills or not, or can describe the situation in that sort of a form and shape or not. Conceptual understanding is very important. The tools and other thing can be taught. Even somebody might be having a different tool experience, may not be relevant to your company. So the importance to have those sort of an analytical skills. And I'll tell you my experience when I take interview, again, I don't stick to a particular tool. I depict a user like some sort of a scenario and ask them to put in 2x2 matrix. It's a very tough a situation to really imagine that sort of a scenario and put it in a pictorial way, because that really demonstrates one's analytical capability. And that's where I feel that analytical skill is very, very important for any person want to pursue it in business analysis also. How to interpret the situation, how to connect those sort of dots and then make a meaningful picture out of
Prompt
that.
engineering is actually about structuring the thought that you have in mind.
Exactly. How to put that a verbose
so
situation into a context.
Question on that. Somebody is saying, will ChatGPT ever replace a business analyst? So my own take is that it will help you create, but the nature of ChatGPT is such that it does crowdsource a lot of information, and a result of which you may get irrelevant information as well. So you will still be required to actually validate the output that you get out of a ChatGPT, make it more customized to your needs, and then utilize it. So it will still be a tool, at least as of now. I don't know whether you'll get really autonomous bots that they are predicting. If that happens, then maybe humans are replaced and we are out of business. But that's a distant future to my mind, at least.
Yeah, so and one comment that someone has made, which is very interesting, Princess sir, is with ChatGPT, right? It's very important that people learn how to upskill themselves so that they go up the value chain, right? If you are doing the kind of business analysis that you are doing in the past, chances are it will not take you to the future. So the key message really that's coming out is you have to keep updated on the trends. You have to keep reading. You have to experiment. You have to explore, not be in your own comfort zone thinking that things will be the same way. So that's the key message that comes out from the chat. Thanks. It was anonymous, so I don't know who it was, but thanks for that.
In fact, I have a different opinion on this, actually. At least in the world of content marketing, in the world of marketing in general. Yeah, I think ChatGPT and other tools are so important and are so good. I have mandated in my setup, it's a small setup, but I have mandated that you have to start with asking yourself that, okay, any task that you're doing, can I ask ChatGPT first? I think, the way our thinking is, and we have been fashioned for the past 10 years to start our primary research with Google. Yeah. According to me, that era is gone. Now onwards, you have to start with, okay, let me create a prompt. Let me engineer a prompt in such a way that I get relevant information from ChatGPT. So try, and I request everyone hearing on this webinar to try this out in the next 3-4 days. Try and make 100 prompts on ChatGPT, and you will realize that the quality of answers are really, really good, especially if you're on 3.5 or 4, ChatGPT 3.5 or 4. I think the quality of answers as well as the accuracy of those answers are really, really amazing. And yes, the data validation might be required for specific fields, perhaps Princess, but certainly in the field of content making, for example, you have to make emails. The output coming from ChatGPT is outstanding. I think, for sure for marketing. So, think AI first, and rather than putting a 5-6 5-6 phrase search on Google to start your primary research. Treat ChatGPT as your fellow colleague or a fellow intern or a fellow teammate in your team, and talk to ChatGPT as you would talk to a person. I think that is my starting point for prompt engineering. So that's the way I would approach skills, skills from a prompt engineering perspective. And then the second part is, getting all those and all that data organized in a visual way. I think that is equally important. You are getting so much amount of data today, and you as a business analyst, if you are able to showcase that data in a way that decision makers are able to really take decisions fast, I think that is tremendous value in every sector and every field. That's my view.
Sure. So Govind, do you want to read out some of the questions that we need to prioritize?
Yeah, I think we have 5 minutes maybe for Q&A, but most of the questions that were answered. Great that we have close to 30 questions that came through. I think more than 20 have been already answered. So there are like a couple of questions that I see. So one question that's quite useful for the audience overall is, what is it that people can subscribe or read so that they stay up to date on the future trends? What is it that you guys do? What is it that you promote your team members to follow? Or so that very quickly, if someone could give some ideas, that will be good help. Siddesh sir, maybe you could start.
I think,
yeah,
I think Govind, it's very field specific. So, I think one thing that I am certainly doing is I'm following, and on Twitter, there are lots of these threads that are coming out, so I want to follow fields of marketing. I want to follow fields of say AI or content development. And I'm following people who are posting threads on Twitter. And this is a very, very individual way. You can do the same on LinkedIn. You can do the same on some other platform as well. But I think that is something that has really helped. Also, similarly, following YouTube, YouTube for the people whom you consider relevant in the field would be something that I would advise. Yeah.
Great. Any other points on that, or should I move to the next question?
No, just to add, I think what Siddesh said, depending upon liking of your, or your interest areas, you need to do this sort of a continuous learning. There are so much of a channels are there. Probably I'm from the bit of an old school of thought, so I will advise slightly one step further on that. Is that generally what I do is that after going through these sort of seminars, these sort of events or YouTube channels and other thing, I try to list it down or write it in my own words, or it could be just a one block diagram to depict what is my understanding in that. And my personal view is that even if you attended a seminar, even you can pick it up 20% of that sort of a crux, of the information. I think it will help you as an individual very good. And that's where I personally have, and that this is my personal habit of probably picking up those sort of points, writing down those points, or most important is that converting that verbal information into a diagrammatic way, because then that I remember, for a longer period. So if somebody has got that sort of a habit of reproduction of that, what you have learned is very important to really store that information on a permanent basis. That's what I do it to upskill myself.
Yeah, and
Doctor,
even
thank you.
experiences. So for example, I've heard this conference here, then I take away, for example, Prasanna mentioned about how the customer experience is getting copied from one industry to another. Now that's a point which as a business analyst, I should have in my mind. And therefore it helps to jot it down and then reflect on it. And so that the next time around, I can reuse experiences from different places into the work that I do. Thanks for sharing that. So anybody else wants to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's a continuous process in my way to learn based upon your interest. There are now a lot of channels now. There are a lot of WhatsApp group people exchange a lot of information. Follow some influencers who are good in this in your domain, in digital marketing or AI or any other new. Follow some influencers. And don't do too much, right? Do something because you just have a 24 hours a day. So engage some few hours around that, because too much of learning also sometimes put a lot of digital toxic things, right? So while we are into too much of learning, you need to take care of your mental health. Create some milestones. What is that? Or create your own index by at the end of a month or at the end of these 6 months, I want to learn these technologies, either online courses or in-person conferences or events like this, or many influencers on LinkedIn or some other channels. Be part of that, engage something, because ultimately you drive your business, your day-to-day things also, right? And based upon everybody's appetite, like we are practitioners, we have to be always on the toes what's happening on the regulation side or a new technology side. That is how 24/7 we'll learn. But what I will suggest, look at your career path, where you are right now, where you want to go to the next 2-3 years. Accordingly, create your own index. Because I have seen one university in Singapore where I'm a visiting faculty or so. They have some kind of a MBA program which is suited for any kind of a skill above 14 years. Like, for example, if I'm into 40s, I can also go for it. And another guy who is into 20s, he can also go for that. And everything is around various technologies, various business models which are relevant to day to day. So this education institute also now drafting, crafting, or redoing their additional vocational or some kind of a curriculum also. So that's their responsibility also, how they can bring this skill. Rather individually, you don't have to run around. But I think now some of the institutes are now bringing everything on the plate, considering this is AI engineering or blockchain engineering, or you will not be surprised, there will be generative AI kind of a chapters in the engineering. So that's a responsibility there also. And if you see the recent our educational policy, which has come up recently in one year back, it talks about AI and many other technologies during your school curriculum also. So, so it's like, what you have to really see, what is your career today? What is that you want to do it next 2-3 years? Are you into engineering, coding, development, or business analysis, so on? And accordingly, have these various tools and technologies or methods around you. With your personal life is also intact, because too much of, because earlier it was just an education institute you have to go. Now today you have many sites will give a notification. You have an academy, or you have a free courses on LinkedIn. You have so much to do around. So you need to see what you are doing against your index, your own personalized curriculum, where you have to stick around with all these tools and technologies. Otherwise, too much of things will not also to help you to where you want to go. So that's how I will look at it. Yeah, and write more.
Thanks.
Right? If you are understanding that.
What Siddesh said.
The last 10 seconds.
Yeah,
For all of these guys, whatever you are learning around, write four lines about that, what you have learned. That 4 lines will become 400 lines, maybe a book over a period of 2-3 years. Because writing gives a lot of clarity of mind while you learn so many things, but how to funnel it down that against your aspirational index, that gives a lot of momentum. Writing and reading books also should be part of, apart from digital or any of those online tools.
So to sum up, I think what I would say is we heard, what as a BA, what I need to do is to understand the strategy dimension, the business dimension at one end. On the other hand, the ability to engage with stakeholders in a much bigger way across organizations at the second, and trying to find out what's in it for each one of them and answer that question for them and add value to them. The third is, of course, the visualization in terms of the solution, in terms of the customer journeys and things like that. Then we talked about data and how do you leverage data, what exists, but also imagine what data you might need in future, and in an agile manner embed it in the products and platforms that you build. And we also talked about how emerging technologies like ChatGPT, etc., can actually be utilized in the roles and functions that you have. And most importantly, the last portion in terms of how do you continuously learn. And I think learning will be a continuous process. One way to segment it is, like Siddesh said, in terms of the domain that you are in. So at least focus on that and pick up relevant sites and Twitter handles which feed you information. But I would also add the spirit of experimentation, that you learn, you do some agile experiments within your department. So suppose you are heading a BA team, then how can you ask at least 10% of the BA team to do some small experiments of new technologies that come, because that's where the real learning happens. So if you do it on an ongoing basis, out of the 10 experiments you run, at least one will be something which will be a breakthrough for you. And that's something which you want to utilize further. So these are some thoughts which came out of this discussion, and thanks to all the panelists for their valuable inputs, as also the participants for the tremendous amount of questions that we received, and the participation itself, I think, which crossed almost 150, I think 130, 140. Thanks, Govind, and
Yeah.
Bhakti, over to you now.
Yeah, thank you. The good news is there are very few questions that are out on the Q&A that are yet to be answered. So some of them, one of the panel members or one of us will probably respond to you. But keep your thoughts and inputs coming. As a community, it's important that we hear you, you hear us, and that's where it grows further. I'll hand over to Bhakti for the last segment, which is probably one of the most important segments. So just have like 5-10 minutes ahead to do this segment. Here we are briefly going to talk about IIBA, the Mumbai chapter. Swami sir, who basically has been one of the key members of IIBA India, we would want to hear from him. And towards the end, we hand over some mementos for our panelists. So that's the general thing. The last segment, I would want to tell it now itself, Bhakti, is as an end of this webinar, you will receive an email. Of course, it is being recorded, so you'll have the recording available to you for future reference. A lot of thoughts have been discussed, so it's important that you see it again. With that, there will also be some kind of a discovery questionnaire that we'll be sending to you. The purpose of that is, while we are charting out the goals and objectives of Mumbai chapter, it's important we keep the community in the center of everything we do. So you'd want to hear your perspectives, the challenges that you've been facing, so that if there is commonality, we channelize that towards future interventions that we plan. That's the general path that we are trying to take as Mumbai chapter. Over to you, Bhakti. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, I was on mute. So actually, I'll hand it over to Swami sir first. Swami sir, if you're there. Oh, he's there.
Yeah. So thank you for all the great, thought-provoking session. I'll take, it's a gratitude, token of gratitude from you, from IIBA India and IIBA Mumbai chapter. And I request, it's Mr. Prasanna, it's a fantastic session. And thank you so much. This memento as token of gratitude will reach your home very soon. And just the photo of this, and also, can you go to the next slide? The certificate also, it will reach you to your place. And thank you so much, and continue to engage with us and give your inspiring talk continuously and help us to build the momentum in Mumbai chapter. Thank you so much. And I'll just, can you go to the next panel member? Yeah, Nitin. Nitin, you are quite some time you are helping us to give a new perspective. Today it is extremely good that, I could hear, how the new trend and technology help us. Thanks for your inspiring talk. And it will reach your home very soon, that both certificate as well as the memento as a token of our gratitude. And then, the next is Siddesh. Siddesh, it's a great privilege and honor for, handing over this memento virtually. Thank you so much for this. And then, we continue to get in and keep giving us your thoughts and continue to be an advisor and be part of this business analysis advocacy group. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And a special thanks to Dr. Pense, sir. But for you, it would not have happened today. This would not have happened. Thank you so much for moderating this session. And then I'm really excited to share that, we could get that 370 plus people because of this, the new chapter. See, as Dr. Pense said that, he continued to be a president, and then Meenakshi is also continuously supporting as a secretary. Now the Bhakti, who is VP Professional Development, Akanksha.
That'll be events. That'll be events.
Yes, events. I think.
That changes
and
now.
Then, both Naina and Akanksha will support for professional development, and Govind Sridhar is, take of community engagement, and he had a target of, reaching minimum 300 people. And today the registration has been 370. I think, more than 130 plus people today attended. And of course, Pankaj is our, support Govind on this. And thank you very much and stay tuned. And it's going to be the next session, or every year, so every month, 4th Saturday, we conduct this session. And next session is gamify your career. Stay tuned. And it is going to be how you can gamify your career, because this is going to, we are going to give completely new perspective, and it will be hosted by IIBA Delhi NCR chapter. As I want to conclude, IIBA always supports recognition of business analysis profession and networking and community engagement, standards and resource development, and comprehensive certification program. Thank you. Thank you very much. And over to you, Bhakti.
Thank you so much, Swami sir. So I'd like to actually wrap up. Thank everybody who has attended today's webinar. Like Govind mentioned, you will receive the recording as well as a questionnaire after this webinar closes. So please do take some time out and please help us so that we can organize the next webinar based on the feedback that we receive. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bhakti. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
panel
you.
members.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We can end the session now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.